Get it? Physical health is not equal to mental health. What do I mean when I say physical health is not equal to mental health? I'm not exactly talking about the fact that one is more important than the other or that, you should only strive to achieve one, but we're going to talk about balance. We're going to talk a little bit about my experience and how I sort of was able to develop myself while like better understanding that if my mental ain't right, my physical doesn't fucking matter and vice versa. All right. So without wasting any time, I want y'all to let me know how your day is going. Gurge, what's up? Tyson, what's happening? Yo, what's happening? Let me know how your day is going. I'm actually gonna set up a little bit. I'm just gonna put my pop filter on over here and then get the podcast rolling. But until then, you guys and girls, let me know how your day is going. Let me know what it is, what's up, what's popping, and then we're gonna dive on into it. I dropped a post earlier today relating to this, so I figured it was important to actually just like vocalize this, verbalize this, and have this conversation with you guys and girls. What it is, what's happening? Natural Nomad in the house. We got this motherfucking monster Tyson in the cut. Fucking appreciate you, bro. Always showing the love, always looking to learn and offer, your experience and let people know what it is that you're going through as well, right? And shout out to my boy. I dropped a post on him yesterday. He's making amazing fucking progress in the Natural Nomad Academy, which is the coaching company that I run, that Tyson is a part of, and he's getting a whole lot of fucking success from it. All right. Again, guys and girls, I want you to know that you're more than welcome to um drop your questions, drop comments as I go along through the podcast. And at the end of the podcast, as usual, I'm going to read your questions and help you out in any way that I can, and help you understand a little bit more about what you may be lost on. Okay. So let me know how your day's going, people. Homie says, go check my paintings. Haley, I appreciate you for joining. I'll check your paintings after this live stream. Just give me a follow so I can actually have your name there. Or I think afterwards, I can probably see that you commented. So, regardless, whatever you want to do, I'm gonna hop on your page and check some paintings out because I love me some paintings and shit. Um, how's your day going, people? How's your day going? I don't want sitting ducks. I can see when you join, right? Dope, dope. All right. So again, for anybody that is not familiar with the way this works, it's Alpha Red. He says, I'm doing good, bro. How about you? I appreciate you, dog. I'm hanging out. I'm hanging out. We're doing good, man. So if you're not familiar with how this works, I'm going to be talking. I'm going to run my podcast. Once it's done recording, I'm going to answer questions, sort of like a Q&A, open mic type of thing here. So again, feel free to drop questions. Feel free to drop comments as I go along through the live stream and the podcast recording. Then once that's all said and done with, I'm going to answer your questions. Okay. So without wasting any time, we're going to get this podcast rolling and recording in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, welcome to another episode of the Natural Nomad Podcast. This is the number one podcast for anyone on this planet, country, or nation who wants to make an amazing mental and physical natural transformation. All right, disclaimer, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Not because I want to be mean, but because I fucking respect you. All right, so if you tune in and decide to give me the time out of your life that you know you'll never get back, the very least I can do for you is keep it a stack. All right. Now that that's out the way, let's chat with IFBB Pro Matt Butale. Let's get raw nomads, natty nomads, natural nomads. What's happening? I appreciate you guys and girls for giving me your ears and paying attention today on this wicked fucking Wednesday. Today we're gonna be talking about something that hits close to home. It's gonna sort of demand a little bit of vulnerability on my part, but I'm willing to, drop that out in the lines here if it means that you guys and girls are gonna get something out of it, something beneficial, something positive, something that you can internalize, relate with, and use to better your own life. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how physical health is not equal to mental health, and vice versa. Mental health is not equal to physical health. And when I'm bringing this up, I'm not really just saying this to say this. I'm not saying this just so you can pick one thing to focus on. I'm actually saying this because without that balance, even if you feel like you look good, physically, you look good, whatever, you go to the gym, don't take care of what's going on in your mental, what's going on upstairs. But even though you have an amazing physique, is very hard, right? And just being consistent with the gym and nutrition be a whole lot harder than it has to be, simply because mentally you're not in the right position. And the same thing goes with mentally. If you find that mentally you're okay, you've got other things in life aside from the way you look and feel physically, in your physical manifestation in this superficial body that dies, if you feel like you're nailing your finances, you've got great relationships with other people in your life, so on and so forth, but you're not happy with the way you look, that's a bad thing. Okay, so we're going to be talking about balance here. Physical health in contrast to mental health. Okay, and just to wrap it up in a little nutshell here, I'm going to basically bring to you 5 pillars of conversation that of course include my experience as well, and I'm going to share with you some of like the stories in my life. We're going to do a little bit of a story time, and we're going to break it down and talk about what I've learned, what I experienced as an athlete, and just as an individual, and my understanding of physical health and mental health and how they contrast and why it's so fucking important to have that balance. Okay, having too much of anything on the side of the spectrum isn't ideal. All right, yo, what's up, Ray? I appreciate you, bro. Thanks for tuning in, Holmes. All right, so let's dive into it. Before I dive into it, for some of the new people that just joined, that didn't join at the beginning of this podcast recording, the way this works is I record my podcast. Once it's all said and done and recorded, after like 10 minutes, I answer and I read some comments and questions. So if you have any questions or anything like that that may relate to the topic or anything that relates to health and fitness, feel free to drop it down in the comments below. And then I'm going to get back to you. And of course, if your question or comment is too private, you don't want to air yourself out on social media, I completely understand. Just shoot me a DM and I'll help you understand what it is that you're trying to learn on a one-to-one level. Cool? Make sense? Dope. All right. So, number one out of 5 things when we're talking about physical health and how it doesn't equate to mental health, I'm going to walk you through memory lane. I'm going to give you a little bit of a story. Earlier off in my days, like, in high school, I was a freestyle wrestler and I played football. Okay. The term student athlete. All right. So I'm going to use this sort of as an analogy: student being the mental and athlete being the physical. Okay. I was an athlete student. I prioritized the physical, I prioritized the superficial, I prioritized the physical manifestation of things, like how I looked, how I performed. Of course, when I say how I looked, I mean like my physique, my muscles and things of the sort. Because I was, of course, very very health conscious, and I really wanted to like build muscle, grow muscle. And when it comes to the student side, the mental, the academic side of things, and even a little bit deeper, relationships. How I dealt with that, how I handled that as I grew older. Right. So in high school, man, I'll be honest with you, I was a fucking monster when it comes to wrestling. Like the medals on the right side here that you can see on TikTok and Instagram, and a little bit on YouTube, but you can't really see the angle on Facebook. Those medals on my right side were all wrestling medals. I slayed freestyle wrestling in high school. It was like I loved being an athlete. I loved doing the physical. I loved taking care of my body on a physical level. Right? I was able to perform. I did everything that I sought out to do as a wrestler, and I was also doing football as well. And I always made sure that I was top performer on the starting defensive lineup, and like that was my priority. They say student athlete, I was athlete student, the bad kind. So what does that mean? That means I overachieved and succeeded in the athlete portion of things, in the physical portion of things. But when it came to my student side, when it came to what I would call and refer to the mental side of things, I was MIA. I couldn't give a shit. I skipped class. I would call in sick to work when I wasn't even sick. I would just play at a low level. Like I was the complete opposite in my mind when you're comparing, how my physique was, right? My physique and my performance as an athlete was just stellar. And then in school, I would just skip class and I would just not care. And like relationships with other people were so shallow because I didn't really care. Like I didn't value relationships. I didn't value my mental health. I didn't value the mental health. I just simply kept blazing through, prioritizing the superficial strength and we'll say physical performance optimal in the sports that I was, competing in. And that did have its own benefit in a way because I was able to just put all of my energy and all of my focus into one thing and like make that fucking, expand and explode. Like my rookie season of wrestling, I just murdered the scene, and football, I did amazing as well. But in school, even though like I consider myself to be, and I'm not pumping my tires, I consider myself to be a smart individual. I consider myself to, like, when I apply myself, be a very, very worthy academic. But I never really paid attention to the mental side of things and being responsible when it comes to like what I was learning. being responsible when it came to how I would treat peers, teachers, and all that. I didn't care. I was actually a dickhead in high school. I would, constantly argue with teachers. I would constantly be like disrespectful and all this and that, just so I can just get out of class. And I'd only go to school just to go to the gym, just to go to the football field, just to go to the wrestling mat, and then I went home. Like I'm telling you, I would skip school like it was a fucking extreme sport, and I was winning. All right, and the same thing would go with like relationships. In high school, when I was in a relationship, I was working full time, and I was also, trying my best to be the very best athlete that I could possibly be. And that came at a price because there were times where, like, when I was in the relationship, that I was choosing to not devote time, attention, care, and love to the other person, to my partner at the time, in favor of not only, going to work and making ends meet. Because let's face it, growing up, I wasn't a rich kid. I actually had to work full time from like 13 years old and up. Um, so I would sacrifice time for work, and after that time, I would go straight to the gym or do whatever it was physically that I felt I had to do because I just didn't care about anything that was going on mentally for myself or for other people. So, of course, those relationships deteriorated. I've lost many friendships by just being selfish on the physical front and not paying attention to the mental. Okay. So, that was one thing that indicated to me that, clicked in my head that I was like, okay, fuck, like I feel like something's off here, but I'm not necessarily in tune with myself enough to know what it is. So I just continue to go to the gym, continue to go to the gym, and watch all of my relationships crumble before me, all of my friendships, become a little bit more distant, as I focus on being the best physical specimen that I could be. And I'm going to tell you this, and it sort of sounds contradictory. There are seasons, there are times where you do have to do that, like short periods of time where that is actually ideal. But if that's your main prerogative, if that's the way you just live your life, you're in some trouble because it's not sustainable. And in the long term, it's going to hurt you even more physically because, as I say this to all my clients and so many people, if you've ever watched this podcast before or listened to this podcast, where the mind goes, the body will follow. So I was able to just go on autopilot and make my body just do what I wanted it to. But because my mind wasn't aligned, it was just a lot more difficult to do the simple things that I could do, you know, a whole lot easier if I was just mentally clear, mentally responsible, and keeping that fair balance of physical and mental execution. Okay. So the first thing was I was a student athlete, but I was more of an athlete than a student, which indicated to me that like I only cared more about the physical than the mental. Okay. So the second thing that I want to bring up out of the five pillars of conversation when we talk about physical health and it not being equal to mental health, this one I know a lot of you guys and girls can relate with because I'll be honest with you, if you've ever been in a relationship, if you've ever had a close friendship of anything of the sorts, you probably experienced like the short end of the stick where someone did you dirty or like, things broke off on a bad note, right? Um, and people that are mentally healthy, people that are mentally aware and they have their EQ up, like they're able to sort of mitigate those feelings healthy in a healthy way. Um, they'll know what I'm talking about. But for those of you that didn't, you'll also know what I'm talking about too. So what I'm saying over here is grudges, resentment. Okay. I used to hold grudges and resentment like holy shit. I couldn't even, compare it to anything, but like I used to hold grudges and just be mad at people for the way things would break off, for the way things would end, specifically in relationships, but even in friendships as well. Um, and I would never want to like actually go to the person and say, hey, maybe we have to solve this in this sort of way, or even going to myself and saying, this is maybe for the better, or for the, if I was to stay in this situation, it'd be worse. I would just like suppress it, bottle it up, and take it to the gym with me. And now look, and this is going to sound contradictory again. There are times where it's like sometimes you can't just immediately attack the problem. You got to give yourself some time to actually, you know, let the fire come down and let that boil come to a little simmer, and then you can approach it. That's completely cool. Also, you can use that negative energy or that resentment to help you just get a little bit motivated. But if you live that way, if you allow resentment, negative emotions, and grudges to propel you, and I'm using quotations because they don't propel you in the long run. In the short run, they will. But if you use them to propel you, In the long run, it's going to eat away at your mentality and deteriorate who you are as a person. And I'm telling you this with personal experience. Like I would go to the gym, hit PRs, pack on muscle, dudes. Like I was just fucking crushing it. But when it came to the point of like being alone outside of the gym, sitting in a quiet room, like it was just it was torture. It was more pain than I could even handle. And that's just me keeping it stacked with you guys and girls. Okay, because I'm not here to lie to you guys and girls or anything like that. So I realized, okay, well, like holding grudges and resentment can get me off my ass and like make me work a little bit harder, but in the long run, it's gonna do more worse than good. So I have to be a little bit more aware of how I allow people to, affect me mentally and how I handle problems when it comes to relationships, friendships, and things that regard mental health. Because I was completely negligent. I had anger issues, like I just had a short fuse, didn't really want to talk to people most of the time. I would just fucking isolate myself, put myself in the gym, crank it out. But when I went home and I was able to sit by myself, it was fucking rough. That's the facts, right? So again, we're going to talk about this later on, the balance, but I'm showing you my imbalance, my imperfections, just by being vulnerable and sharing you a little bit of my story. All right. So again, another thing aside from like school is the first example. School was like, okay, bro, you're focusing more on being an athlete than you are being a student. So that already showed me that I was prioritizing the physical over the mental. That was one. Number two, I wouldn't give a shit about like my relationships with friends or my partners or anything like that. And I would just selfishly do what I needed to do to, benefit from a physical standpoint in the gym and just like isolate only physical manifestation of things while not paying attention to what's going on mentally. Okay. So that was two. The third thing is, okay, I didn't focus on what was important outside of fitness. Okay, and this is where we're going to sort of tie into balance here. Everything that was not related to fitness, guys and girls, I just couldn't care less about. I never focused on, like, literally everything. As I said, when it came to work, I would do just the amount, like a bare minimum amount of work, just so I can get back to the gym. When it came to friendships and relationships, I would do the bare minimum just so I can like get by and move forward and not necessarily have any quote unquote negative repercussions, right? That was when I started to like sit down and think to myself, I'm not really prioritizing what's going on in my head. And because my head is sort of like cloudy and because I'm not being responsible on that end, it's making going to the gym, it's making, meal prep, cooking all my food and just being sharp with my physical side of things. It's making that a whole lot more difficult than it needs to be. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it made it so freaking difficult, like, I remember feeling the feeling of going to the gym and, like, just being pumped up and, like, feeling good and all that stuff, and then hitting a point where so many negative things would happen, like, I'm not gonna air out all of my dirty laundry, but, breakups and things at home with my parents, getting involved with the police and things of that sort, like, so many things would start to pack on, and I would just never address it, and I would always suppress it. And it got to a point where I was like, yeah, I got a lot of baggage and I feel the weight now. And it's actually affecting my ability to go into the gym and to eat healthy and to do all the things that I want to do physically. Okay. And now here's what ties into balance, guys and girls. Because only when I sat down, I think it was after my, you know what, I'm gonna air out some little bit of dirty laundry here because I value you guys and girls, and I think you may be able to relate to some of this. It's a little bit dark, but I'm still gonna keep it a stack with you. So for my very first competition as a natural bodybuilder, I was 19 years old, and I was getting out of a fucked up breakup, like absolutely fucked up. Like we didn't respect each other. Um, we did so many things, and at the time of me going to compete, my then partner at the time when I was 19 had a miscarriage. Okay, and I handled every problem the same way that I handled it previously. I would just look at it and look away. I never gave a fuck, really, or at least that's what I was telling myself. I said, you know what, that happened, cool. The priority is the gym. The priority is my meals. The priority is just physically manifesting myself into being this jack motherfucker who just doesn't really care. And I'll tell you this: right after I won that show, and I was like alone at home, I sat in my room, I got my medal, I looked at it, I was happy. That's when everything started to come into my head here, right? And I was able to like just sink into my emotion and say like, "Fuck, man, I'm really damaged mentally. Like, I can't even like I was just shivering angry thinking about all the things that I've been through, thinking about, my lack of responsibility in certain parts of my life, wishing that I did things differently. And it was just it was too much to bear, right? And then that's when I realized, yo, I can't just keep fucking suppressing shit and moving forward. Like like it's gonna stress me out and I'm going to die. Like I realized that going to the gym, being the best person that I could be physically was actually not enough. I had to be the best person that I could have possibly been mentally as well. Right. So that was a reality fucking slap in the face. And I realized, okay, well, Matt, like, yo, real shit, you actually have to get it together on your mental. Otherwise, you risk never like progressing on the physical side of things. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I realized, okay, you know what? I've got to tie in some balance here. I've actually got to right my wrongs. I've actually got to pay attention to what's going on mentally. I can't just train it out. I can't just get angry, go to the gym, lift, and then come home like nothing happened. Like I actually have to address this shit. It's hard, but it's so worth it. Okay? Like balance is your friend, guys and girls. It's more important to be well-rounded and have an equal amount of physical and mental, we'll say, physical and mental like level of execution than just being straight physical or straight mental. Okay. And I realized in order for me to improve as an individual, not just a body of flesh, that I have to just take responsibility of what's going on in my head because ignoring it is just going to make me like dig myself deeper. And if you can relate to this, guys and girls, let me know. Like, let me know. You don't have to tell me your story or anything like that, but just let me know if you can relate to this. So I started like reaching out to all my old friends, everybody that I've made a mistake with. And I started to not only just like apologize for no reason, but I started to explain myself and in a way not justify my behavior, but allow the other party to understand that, like, yeah, I was not mentally even responsible. I was just not even, I just didn't care. And that's just the truth. I'm not going to say, oh, I wish I did this and wish I did that. But this is the truth. This is how I've been feeling. This is how I've been processing things. And only once I was able to like come to terms and be that real with myself and other people did I notice it start to become easier on the physical side of things for me to be like consistent with my gym, consistent with my nutrition without having to fight unnecessary obstacles in my head. Does that make sense? Okay. And this was another thing. Once I started to open up myself mentally and take responsibility and accountability for what was going on in my head, I noticed that a lot of the things that I was doing, even when it came to high school, like just trying to perform and look a certain way, most of it was for me. But as I grew older and older, and as the things that I was suppressing mentally started to stack and stack, I noticed that I was doing it less for me and more because of my resentment, more because of my anger, more because of like just my lack of ability to just open up the book and read the chapters that I was going through. Do you know what I'm saying? And when I realized, okay, well, it did benefit me in a way. It motivated me to get into the gym, like anger and the resentment. It made me push a whole lot of personal records. But in the long run, it's not healthy for me. Like when I realized that, I said, you know what? It's best off I don't use vengeance, negative energy as a sole source of like motivation to go into the gym and crush it. Because although short term, it's gonna make me feel like I'm actually dealing with the mental issues by physically just pushing heavy shit. When I went home, it'll always be the noise would just be loud and I wouldn't be able to lift that home and I would just die to go to the gym again the next day. So I realized, okay, well, I can't just be doing this to suppress, the negative emotions that are going on in my head. I actually have to be doing, what I need to be doing for my physical health because I actually value myself. Like I actually value my body. I value like not only just looking good, but feeling good physically and mentally. And that was such a difficult obstacle to overcome when my mind was clouded with all this negative nonsense, right? So I had to understand that I was doing this for me and not for my negative emotions, not for vengeance, not in spite of anything. Because I was doing a lot of things, in spite of other people. And most of my athletic career as a wrestler, as a football player, and as a now natural bodybuilder, professional bodybuilder, was built off of that foundation. And I didn't want that. Like I didn't want the pillar of my success to be based off of such a negative, dark, fucking like shady ass shit. Like I wanted to like continue to grow and develop, but from a positive place so that I know it can be sustainable for not only a long term, but for the rest of my life. Okay. And that ties into many different things, not just, you know, um, my mentality, regarding relationships and friendships and things of the sort, but like my financial responsibility. Like I figured that every single year I improve. Every single year I get bigger. Every single year I get stronger. But every single year do I get smarter? Every single year do I get more emotionally intelligent? Every single year do I improve in all facets of life, or is it just one thing? And when I asked myself that question, it clicked. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna make a vow to myself. And if you saw my post earlier on Instagram, then you know what I'm talking about. But I'm gonna make a vow to myself, and this vow is that each and planet, I'm going to improve myself as a physical manifestation, like as a bodybuilder. I'm gonna grow my muscle, get stronger. I'm going to get better with my finances. I'm going to get better with my relationships, and that will make sure that I'm like, as an individual, growing as wholesome as possible with as little baggage as possible so that I can actually feel good outside of just looking good in the mirror. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, let me know. Okay. And with that, it started to make it easier for me to just be at peace and actually be able to sit in a fucking room alone without voices screaming in my head. And it made me sort of like get closer to living, closer to my meaning, my purpose, and not doing shit that is superficial to please other people. You feel me? Because at first it was for me, and then later on it became to please other people and suppress my negative emotions that I wasn't addressing. So once I was able to like actually sit down with myself, have the conversation, and understand, make that vow to myself that not only as a bodybuilder will I improve my physique, but as a man I'll improve my finances and my mentality. Like that's when I had that trifecta, the perfect trifecta of how to actually improve, feel better, look better mentally and physically each and every single year with balance. Because finances are in line, I'm living my purpose, I'm like addressing things mentally, and what I'm doing for the physical is not superficial and it's not for anyone else but myself. So it allowed me to actually get closer to serving my purpose. Okay. And serving my purpose became living a life of meaning and actually like inspiring other people to address their own flaws mentally as well as physically and lead themselves out of that position. And if they weren't able to lead themselves out of that position, I made it my duty, and to this day, it still is my duty and my responsibility to make sure that each and every single one of my clients, or even people that I cross paths with, understands that message and is able to improve their life mentally, physically, and financially based off of what I just said. So I decided I'm going to live a life of meaning, a life of purpose. And I became an online coach so that I can help other people get out of the same hole that I was in. Like most of them come for me, they come to for whatever they think they want. And then I tell them what they need to hear. That's why at the podcast, at the beginning of every single podcast, I say, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Why? Because most people that come up to me, and me being a coach and a professional bodybuilder and an expert in my field, they're like, hey, Matt, I want to lose 25 pounds. Matt, I want to lose 30 pounds, or I want to build 10 pounds of muscle. Cool. But what I'm going to tell you is, where is your mentality at? Where is your head at? Where are your finances at? Like that is just as, if not more important than your physical side of things. Because, and this is something that one of my mentors told me, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So if you are negligent mentally, if you have financial problems, but you want to be a physical specimen, like you want to like change your physical body, it's not going to work. And if it does work, it's not going to last. And I'm telling you that with personal experience. Okay. I'm telling you that with personal experience. It's facts. So I make it my duty to get people in that want to change their bodies, but understand that you have to change your mind first. The same way that I had to learn. All right. That's it. I dropped the mic. All right. So just to walk you through the 5 pillars of conversation we had when it comes to physical health is not equal to mental health. Number one, Okay. When I was understanding that I was a student athlete, but I prioritized being an athlete, that was the first red flag. Okay. Because physically I was progressing, but mentally I was regressing. The second red flag was I was using negative emotions, grudges, and resentment to better myself physically. And yes, it did work short term, but long term, the mental baggage got even worse and harder. It made it harder for me to, progress physically, as well as my lack of financial responsibility. Right. And the third thing was I never paid attention to the extra baggage, which is another red flag that you guys and girls may have. You have to address shit. Otherwise, it's going to address you. You'll notice when you sit by yourself in a quiet room, when your voices, it's just nobody but you and your voices in your head. Like you'll notice, you'll feel that feeling. It's not going to be sweet. Okay, so you have to focus on everything. Be well rounded, be balanced. Okay, number four, balance is your friend. You have to be as strong as you are physically as you are mentally. All right, and last but not least, do it for yourself. Don't do anything superficial. Don't try to lose 10 pounds to impress somebody that doesn't give a fuck about you. Okay, do it for you. And it becomes a lot easier to do it for yourself once you have your mental, financial, and physical all balanced and all working together for that one goal of just feeling and looking good, living your purpose every single day. All right. So, thank you so much for your time and attention today. This is the number one podcast for anyone on this planet, country, or nation who wants to make an amazing natural or physical transformation. Okay, so don't forget, and I'm always going to remind you guys and girls to implement at least one thing from every podcast. Again, because information without implementation is just fucking noise. All right. Shameless plug. If you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Matt Butale, Matt space Butale, to see how I live my life outside of social media. And also, if you want to lose 25 pounds or gain some muscle and become a part of the Natural Nomad Academy, feel free to give me a DM and I'll see if you'll be a good fit. Again, I only work with serious individuals. So if you know that you're not serious, please don't waste both of our time. Um, that's all I got to say for you guys and girls today. All right. It's been nice chatting. Hope you like what today's topic was about. Natural IFBB Pro Matt signing out. Boom. All right. Podcast is recorded. Good look at some wicked comments here. Oh, shoot. Brittany, what's up? And we're just going to roll on. And then after this, I'm going to disappear. So I'm going to start off on TikTok. Hopefully, I don't get a lot of nonsense here because usually TikTok is just wild with that. Haley says, "Thanks, homie. I got the Spider one for." Oh, so Haley sells art. If any of you guys are interested in that, um, Tom or okay, that's dope. That's dope. I appreciate you, sharing your skills out here. Um, that's a silly comment. Not reading it. Alex, I appreciate the follow. What's up, G? Stop being mad, please. I appreciate you. Um, what's up? What's up? Nightmare 198. I appreciate you. Thanks for joining. Uh, DXBSSSS, Debs, I think it is, says so many black men struggle with it. Um, it's good that you're shining light on it. I think men and women, black or white, whatever your race is, struggle with the balance of physical, mental, and financial cadence. And like, I just bringing it up and just keeping it stacking, and just being honest with you guys and girls is gonna help because this is something that I have to deal with. And I know that I'm not the only person on this planet that has felt these feelings or dealt with this. So I figured that it would be good to talk about this. I appreciate that. Appreciate it. I appreciate it. And Kiana, I thank you for the tennis balls. I appreciate it. The gifts on TikTok. Sunny Baby says, Matt, stop playing and put me in a headlock respectfully. You're funny. All right, let's look at some Instagram stuff over here. We got just quite a few. Let's see. Let's see. Holy shoot. I appreciate everybody that joined. Man, this is amazing. Lizzie says, I enjoy your podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. She says, oh, the police. Why you seem like you have everything together. I don't have everything together. I'm not a perfect human being. It's about just showcasing my mistakes and my errors like growing up. And you guys and girls to understand that you can have these problems and still succeed in your life, but you have to address your physical, mental, and financial self and get them all balanced, get them all in line so that you can actually like progress as an individual in all facets in a balanced fashion. Um, what was it that you needed to address? I think I already passed that point. You care to expand upon what it was that you're angry and resentful about. I'm not gonna dive like all the way into my dirty laundry, but I did explain a little bit of what was going on. I think you joined a little bit later, or maybe you did hear about um, what were some of the things that I was actually like resentful of. But most of them were relating to the mental side of things, relationships, my lack of like financial responsibility, things of that sort. Yes, I did wrestle. I appreciate the compliments. Thank you, Lizzie. Afro Samurai says for mental health. Yeah, man. Fuck yeah. Lizzie says everything you say makes sense. I appreciate the fact that you're getting value from this. Hey Riley, what's good? Hey the legend. Appreciate you, man. Don't pump my tires. Lizzie, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dynamite, Nighty King, what's up, bro? I appreciate you, dog. Thank you so much for those compliments and just comments in general. All right, let's look at Brittany. What's good? You feel me? All right, let's see. She says, I finally made it. You're still a monster. I appreciate you. You know what it is. We're never going to let up on this. Alfred says, "Bro, Brittany is literally the most faithful subscriber, and that is true. Brittany is the most faithful subscriber on YouTube. She like does not miss, and if she does miss, she will watch the replay and like she's commenting on all my shorts. I wish I had a lot more subscribers like Brittany, but I'm super fucking grateful and glad that I do have Brittany in my corner. So, you know what it is. Salute to you, Brittany. This is a big, huge motherfucking thank you from Matt. You know what's up. I appreciate the support." She says he's a great person to be loyal to. I appreciate you so much. Again, I go out here online just to like give value Monday to Friday. But if you do follow me on any social media platform, I've got them all, by the way, then you pretty much know what I'm about. I'm here to serve my purpose, live a life of meaning. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and probably some other ones I'm forgetting, but you can go check me out there. If you want, you can Google me, MATT space BUTALE, and see all my socials there. I make daily posts on, all my social media, so you can actually get some value from that as well. I offer tips as well, just as I do in the podcast. All right. Brittany says people underestimate taking care of yourself mentally. Striving for balance helps. It may not always be possible, but just being mindful of it is a start. Exactly. Being aware, 100% agree with that. Being aware is, and I would say, more important than having the knowledge to fix the issue. Like if you know you have a problem, it's better than not knowing you have a problem. If you don't know how to solve the problem, but you know you have a problem, at least you know that you have the problem so you can reach out and ask for help. Or you can do things, regarding self-help. But just to be aware of the situation itself, like it's more important than having the knowledge to fix it. So I 100% agree with being mindful and just being aware as a start. Uh, Lucas Silva from Brazil. What's up, brother? I see you there. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining, bro. Patrick, Brandon, what's good, yo? All right, people. You know what it is. I'll be going again. I'll be going live again tomorrow. We go live Monday to Friday. You already know this. And I appreciate you so much for tuning in and giving me the time out of your life that you know you're not going to get back. Thank you so much. Hope you have the best fucking Wednesday of your life. IFBB Pro Matt signing out. Peace.